Daniel Mercer was still awake when the message arrived. The room was dark except for the city lights slipping through the window. His phone vibrated once, sharp and final, like a knock that could not be ignored. He almost didn't check it. Midnight. Messages rarely carried good news, but the sender's name froze him in place. Marcus Hale. They hadn't spoken in days. Not since Marcus said he was handling some paperwork and told Daniel to rest. Daniel opened the message. "You deserve to know the truth." His stomach tightened. He sat up, the bedsheet slipping to the floor, and kept reading. The words came fast, too fast, as if Marcus wanted to say everything before courage failed him. Legal transfers. Emergency decisions. Ownership changes. Daniel's name mentioned in the past tense, like a chapter already closed. Daniel read the message twice, then a third time. The words didn't change, but their weight did. The company was gone, not failing, not struggling, gone, moved fully. Under Marcus's control through quiet signatures and well-timed approvals. Everything had been done by the book, clean, legal, final. Daniel's hands trembled as he lowered the phone. His first thought was that it had to be a mistake, a misunderstanding. Marcus would explain it in the morning. He always explained things. He always had reasons. They had built the company together from nothing. Two men in a rented room with one desk and a shared belief that hard work would protect them from betrayal. Daniel had written the plans. Marcus had sold the vision. They balanced each other. Or so Daniel thought. The message ended with a single line that hurt more than the rest. "I did what I had to do." Someone had to move first. Daniel stared at the ceiling. His chest felt tight, like the air had thickened. He tried to breathe slowly, but each breath felt incomplete. The memories came without warning. Late nights, shared meals, promises made without contracts, 'cause trust had felt stronger than ink. Trust. The word now felt foolish. He got out of bed and paced the room. The floor was cold under his feet. He replayed every meeting from the last few months. Every time Marcus had said, "I'll take care of it." Every time Daniel had nodded and stepped back. He had trusted to Isley. He had believed loyalty was mutual. Anger did not come right away. First came a deep, hollow silence inside him. A numb space. Where his future had been. He felt like a guest in his own life, suddenly unwelcome. He checked his email. There were notifications he hadn't noticed before. Updated contracts. Calendar invites canceled. A polite message from the board thanking him for his past contributions. Past. The word echoed. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed and laughed. Once, short and dry. It sounded strange in the quiet room. That laugh scared him more than tears would have. By morning, the city was awake, but Daniel felt stuck in the night. He dressed slowly and left the apartment without eating. The office was only a few blocks away. He needed to see it with his own eyes, as if the building might argue with the truth. The lobby guard greeted him with an uncertain smile. Daniel noticed it immediately. The hesitation. The pause before his name. "Good morning," Daniel said, keeping his voice steady. "Morning," the guard replied, eyes shifting away. Daniel walked toward the elevator. His access card failed once, twice. The small red light blinked back at him, cold and final. A staff member nearby pretended not to notice. That was when anger arrived. It rose fast. Sharp and burning, pushing away the numbness. His hands clenched. At his sides. He felt heat behind his eyes, but he refused to let it spill over. Not here, not in front of strangers who already saw him as yesterday's news. He took the stairs, 2 steps at a time, heart pounding. When he reached his floor, the sight stopped him. His name was gone from the glass door, removed cleanly, as if it had never been there. Inside, his office lights were off. Someone else sat at his old desk. Daniel turned away before anyone could speak to him. Outside, the noise of the street felt louder than usual. Cars passed, people talked. Life moved on, unaware that something inside him had cracked. He stood there for a long moment, fists clenched, breathing through his nose like he was holding himself back from something dangerous. He wanted to call Marcus, to shout, to demand answers he already knew. But a strange calm settled over him. Instead, anger sharpened his thoughts. It gave him focus. Marcus hadn't acted on impulse. This wasn't panic. It was strategy. And Daniel understood strategy better than most. He went home and sat at his desk. He opened old files, past versions of documents, forgotten emails. He wasn't looking for hope. He was looking for understanding. And maybe leveraged as hours passed, the shape of the betrayal became clearer. Marcus had prepared for months, small changes, quiet meetings. Story told slowly so no one questioned the ending. Daniel saw his own mistakes laid bare. He had trusted silence. He had believed shared history was protection. By evening, exhaustion crept in, but his mind refused to rest. He imagined Marcus sitting in the office, calm, confident, telling himself it was necessary. Daniel could almost hear his voice. Reasonable and smooth. Marcus always believed he was right. That night, Daniel stood by the window and looked at the city lights again. They felt different now, harder, less forgiving. He thought about the years he had given the future he had planned, and how quickly it had been taken. Something shifted inside him. Not just anger, but purpose. He didn't want pity. He didn't want apologies. He wanted balance. Revenge was a word he had never liked. It sounded small, emotional. But what he felt now was not small. It was controlled, quiet, patient. Marcus believed the story was over, that the past had been settled with signatures and smiles. Daniel knew better. Stories like this didn't end cleanly. They waited. They built pressure. They demanded a response. As the night deepened, Daniel made a silent promise to himself. He would not rush. He would not shout. He would not make mistakes. Driven by rage, he would remember everything. And when the time came, Marcus would understand what it felt like to lose something he thought was safely his. Daniel did not disappear after the betrayal. He moved differently, quieter, sharper. Each morning began before sunrise, not with hope, but with discipline. He ran through the city streets until his lungs burned, then sat with a notebook and wrote. Facts, not feelings. Names, dates, decisions. He refused to let anger take control. Anger made people careless. He needed to be precise. He started by listening. Former colleagues talked more than they realized when they thought he was finished. Coffee meetings turned into long confessions. People spoke about pressure from Marcus, about rushed approvals and promises made behind closed doors. Daniel never reacted. He nodded, thanked them, and wrote everything down later. Truth came faster when it felt safe. At night, doubt visited him. It arrived softly, asking hard questions. Was revenge justice or escape? Would it give him peace or just a louder silence? He answered by reviewing what he had lost. Not just money or position, but dignity. Trust had been taken from him, reshaped into something cold. He told himself he wasn't planning harm. He was restoring balance. Marcus, meanwhile, stepped into his new role with confidence. Interviews, meetings, applause. He told the story of growth and vision. Careful to mention Daniel as a founding influence, now moving on to new opportunities. The words were polite, the meaning was clear. Marcus believed the past had been handled cleanly. He believed success would quiet any remaining guilt. But guilt does not fade when it is buried. It waits. Marcus began to sense something off in the room. When Daniel's name came up, investors asked careful questions. Partners hesitated before signing. Nothing broke. Nothing failed. Still, sleep came later each night. He told himself it was pressure, nothing more. Progress demanded sacrifice. He had done what leaders did. Daniel watched from a distance. He mapped timelines and patterns. He learned where Marcus rushed and where he cut corners to impress. Expansion moved fast, too fast. Daniel knew the systems because he built them. He knew where truth could slip through the cracks. The plan did not form all at once. It assembled, piece by piece, like a puzzle finding its shape. Daniel gathered documents that showed promises not kept. He found messages that revealed pressure applied at the wrong time. Nothing illegal on its own. Together, they told a different story than the one Marcus sold. Still, Daniel hesitated. Each step forward pulled him deeper into the fight. Friends, notice the change in his eyes. He was focused but distant, calm but tight. When asked what he planned to do next, he smiled and said he was thinking. That was true. He was thinking all the time. One evening, Daniel received a message from an old supplier. They met in a quiet place, away from noise. The supplier spoke about a deal Marcus had pushed through, about deadlines ignored and warnings dismissed. Daniel listened, heart steady. This was the piece he needed. The one that could turn whispers into questions. He went home and stared at. The evidence spread across his table. He imagined the outcome if he released it. Marcus's rise would slow. Trust would crack. The balance would shift. Daniel felt the pull of satisfaction, sharp and tempting. For the first time since the betrayal, he smiled without forcing it. Then the smile faded. He thought about who he would be after. Would revenge define the next chapter of his life? Or would it close the last one? He didn't know. He only knew that doing nothing felt like accepting the wrong as deserved. Marcus felt the ground move under him in small ways. A delayed meeting. A cautious email. He reviewed his choices late at night, justifying each one again. Daniel had been too slow, too careful. The company needed speed. He had taken responsibility. That was the story he told himself. He repeated it until it sounded true. Yet images of Daniel appeared when he least expected them. The early mornings. The shared risks. The trust that once felt unbreakable. Marcus pushed those thoughts away. Sentiment was dangerous. He told himself success would prove him right. Daniel finalized his plan and then stopped. He let it sit. He tested it by waiting. Days passed. Nothing changed. The waiting clarified his mind. He wasn't driven by rage anymore. He was driven by choice. The closer he got to action, the heavier the decision felt. Revenge was no longer an idea. It was a door he could open at any moment. He imagined stepping through and felt both relief and loss on the other side. The day of the investor summit approached. Marcus prepared his speech, confident but tired. Daniel reviewed his evidence one last time. Everything was ready. All that remained was the moment. The morning of the summit arrived without drama, which made it feel heavier. Daniel woke before his alarm and lay still, staring at the ceiling. His body felt calm, but his mind was sharp, alert to every thought. Today was not about planning. Anymore, it was about choice. He dressed simply and left early. The city moved like it always did, unaware that a turning point waited inside one building. As Daniel walked, he felt the weight of the evidence in his bag. Not heavy in size, but heavy in meaning. Months of silence, listening, and control had led to this hour. Inside the venue, lights reflected off glass walls and polished floors. People spoke in careful voices, dressed in confidence. Daniel blended in easily. No one stopped him. No one asked questions. To them, he was just another face in the crowd. Marcus stood backstage, reviewing notes. His suit fit well. His voice sounded steady during practice. Still, something felt off. He told himself it was normal pressure. Big moments always came with nerves. He reminded himself of the story he believed that he had saved the company, that hard choices made strong leaders. When Marcus stepped onto the stage, applause followed. Daniel watched from the back. He saw the man Marcus had become, or maybe the man he always was. Calm, focused, certain. the kind of certainty that leaves little room for doubt. Marcus spoke about growth, vision, and momentum. The audience leaned in. Daniel listened closely, not for lies, but for cracks. He heard them, promises stretched thin. Confidence layered over risk. Nothing obvious, but enough. Daniel's heart beat faster. This was the moment he had imagined so many times. He could stand up, he could walk forward, could release the truth and watch the room change. He pictured Marcus's pause, the confusion, the sudden shift of power. The thought brought a rush, not joy, but intensity. A sharp sense of control. Marcus continued speaking, then paused to take a breath. His eyes moved across the room, scanning faces. For a second, they met Daniel's. Time slowed. Marcus recognized him instantly. The room did not notice, but Marcus did. His voice did not break, but his focus did. He saw Daniel standing there, calm, unreadable. In that moment, Marcus understood something he had avoided for months. The past was not finished. It was watching him. Daniel felt it too. The connection pulled him back through memories he had buried. Long nights, shared risk, trust given without defense. The betrayal no longer felt abstract. It was human again. Marcus finished the speech to applause, but his thoughts drifted. He stepped off stage and shook hands, smiling automatically. Inside, doubt spread. He wondered what Daniel had come to do. He wondered what he deserved. Daniel stayed where he was. He did not move forward. He did not leave. He stood still, letting the noise pass around him. The evidence remained untouched in his bag. In that stillness, clarity arrived. He realized revenge would not end the story. It would only bind him. To it, the outcome might hurt Marcus, but it would shape Daniel as well. He would always be the man who answered betrayal with destruction, even if it felt justified. Daniel thought about the future he wanted, not the past he lost. He thought about rebuilding without bitterness, guiding every step. He saw that revenge promised balance but delivered attachment. It would keep Marcus close, even in victory. That was the cost. Marcus glanced back into the crowd once more. Daniel was gone. The absence struck harder than confrontation would have. Marcus felt relief, then confusion, then a deeper unease. He realized that Daniel had held power and chosen not to use it. That choice forced Marcus to face himself without an enemy to blame. Days passed, nothing exploded, no headlines, no collapse. But something had shifted. Marcus found it harder to speak with the same certainty. He reviewed decisions more carefully. The justification he once repeated no longer satisfied him. Silence had judged him more harshly than exposure might have. Daniel moved forward. He closed the door on the old chapter without slamming it. He began new work, smaller at first, built on lessons learned. Trust was no longer given freely, but it was not withheld forever. At night, he still remembered the betrayal. It did not vanish, but it no longer controlled him. He felt lighter. Not because justice had been served, but because he had chosen who he wanted to be. Revenge had been within reach. Power had been his. He had walked away. And in that choice, Daniel reclaimed something Marcus could never take from him again.